off, boys, and I'm going to lead the way on fullbacks. And growing up, the man who really was a measuring stick through the 80s was Gary Jack. And I suppose fullbacks in the 80s, the requirement was, of course, they had to return the football well. They didn't necessarily have to be lightning quick or have brilliant footwork. Probably, I reckon, the most important thing, they had to be safe.
Yeah.
Particularly under bombs. They were runners who sort of chimed into the back line out wide rather than in and around the rucks. And Blocker, you came through with Jimmy Jack. Firstly, you came through with him. He was a year or two ahead of you at West Wollongong.
He was, yeah.
Did you know him well then?
Oh, I did, yeah, mate. He was a superstar. I mean, he was, we were younger. When you were a young bloke and you sort of thought about the blokes in Sydney and all that playing, but watching this guy come through was unbelievable. Do you know what the great thing about Gary Jack, and a great player, Golden Boot winner, he willed himself to be good. There's a mountain in Mount Kembla in Wollongong, and this is a young bloke running up that mountain every day to make himself good, without anyone knowing or without. And when you watched him play, the way he could kick, return, and run the ball back, just powerful. That powerful in the legs, Jimmy. And we always knew, just watching it.
The other thing,
saying how good he was.
The other thing he used to do was when a bloke made a break.
Oh, he'd have you.
It was a 2-on-1. He'd always just smash the bloke running the ball. It was like he'd try and dummy on me, but I know I'm going to take one of you out. So in the end, the guys get petrified. They'd make the break,
right?
And they knew that they were going to get back.
They got hammered early.
So they'd start shoveling it early to give themselves time to get out of the way.
We played against North Sydney one day, and Warren Ryan was the coach. You remember he used to walk down the stairs into the dressing room at North Sydney? You guys will be familiar with that. Anyway, Mark Graham hit him with a bit of a stiff arm and knocked all his teeth out in the game. We come in at half-time, and Warren's just about to give his sermon. Where's effing Gary Jack? Where is he? He was out there with the ball boys, this is true, on his hands and knees looking for his teeth.
Oh, no.
No, true. Found his teeth.
Yeah.
Mate, tough as nails, Jimmy. Puts him in his sock, plays the second half, wins the man of the match, goes to the dentist and gets them all pushed back in.
Wow.
Jimmy, yeah.
Okay, the other thing about Jimmy Jack, is it urban myth or is it true that he was the tightest man alive?
Oh, there's no other. Mate, he was unbelievable, Jimmy. I remember we worked at the Lees Club when we first went to the Tigers, and we deliberately, got the glue and put $1 coin on the ground.
Yep.
Oh, no. I seen it. I seen him standing there like
put his foot on it. I heard the one about the tolls too. He used to hang around, do extras, train after the game.
Yeah.
Warren went out and said, mate, good on you, mate.
Yeah.
You're out here all the time, hanging around for a couple of hours. He said, Warren, it's my bloke on the tolls.
On the toll.
25 cents in those
It was
days.
something like that, but instead of giving him money, he gave him a steal from Wimpy's well, a banana and a mandarine or something. He give the bloke on the toll gate. What a great player!
There's 1,000.
Mate. He was unbelievable.
Right, the bloke who changed the fullback position. There's a number of. I mean, Mullins came through and he had great speed, but I think without a doubt it was Billy Slater.
Yeah.
Slater, that ability to play first receiver, second receiver, of course, coming around the back on the loop plays, but the ability to work in and around the rucks as well as out wide. I remember going down when I was doing a bit of work with Cooper Cronk and the other halves and leading into the 2006 season, and I'd always looked at Billy back then as a runner. And we started doing these drills, and it became clear to me that he was the best ball player in the club.
Yeah, passing game.
And, I think when he was coming through at Innisfail, he was a halfback and moved into the fullback position, but what a player.
Do you know what? He was so great at attack, and we all talk about Billy Slater's attack. I reckon there's as many tries as he scored, he saved as many.
Yeah.
I just see him getting under blokes all the time when right out through his career. He's so good at it.
The other thing, I mean, every now and then, players will have a freaky stretch. Like Mullins had that month that everyone will remember. Hayne had that 8 weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
He did it like for 15 seasons. He was freakish.
He's unbelievable.
Thing is too, Matt, he has made the position now where, back then fullbacks were an add-on to your back line. So try him in off, and you used to think of different ways to bring him into whether it's between the centres back then or whether it was off the 5'8", and they used to do the old crisscrosses and all that sort of business. But Billy's now become like the extra half. So now every fullback, you look at the teams now, the one thing I think that's holding Penrith back is they don't have a natural ball player at fullback, which is something you wouldn't have said 15 years ago.
Which, when heading to the finals, there could be an over-reliance on Nathan.
Yes. Yeah.
And the thing about Billy is Okay, I'm just trying to get this right to explain it. When Cronk would go to the line, he'd be available on Cronk's inside shoulder, but then quickly shift to the outside shoulder.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
So it allowed Cronk to go to the line, tell a lie with the football, have Billy on his inside, show it at Billy, and then all of a sudden turn out to the short ball, let's say at Hoffman, who's looking for the hole, and all of a sudden Billy's around the back. Sky's in the play.
You talk to players that, used to do that, who used to defend against him, and they'd say you'd look up, you'd see Billy where he's at, then you'd look to see where the ball is. By the time you look back and you're marking up, he's 2 steps wider, and you've lost him. He's suddenly like Billy had that ability to catch you. This is where I am. As soon as you looked away, he just shifted, and then suddenly he's not where you were anymore, and that's when he's starting to create space.
They were brilliant at going to that middle third we talk about. If you have a look at the ball like that, there's always, like, on either side, a front row in the middle third, and then a second row, and then it goes on like that. They're never caught together. They had this unbelievable ability of keeping you on notice. If you were there and you look back and you see Billy Slater just hovering around, and you're right about that, he could change whether he's going to run on the inside, just looking at the defence, what they were doing.
Right, the best player now in that position, no doubt, is James Tedesco. And it's funny because we're just talking about how Billy changed it, and suddenly the fullback needs to be a quality playmaker. That's still an area of the game with Tedesco that is developing.
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot better at it.
He has got a lot better at it.
Yeah.
When I think of Tedesco, big, strong, fast, elusive runner, and just can't be discouraged. And at the moment, he's just driving teams mad with that through the middle third of the football field.
He's one of those guys too that, as you get a little bit tighter, you can't go in half pie on him.
No.
He's that powerful. He can bump out. You see, he's like a little pinball, isn't he? He bumps out of tackles and. You're right. He's
energy now.
His energy, power,
unbelievable, and that relentless ability to just constantly be there. He doesn't allow the defence that time to just give us one set without having to look for you, mate.
Yeah.
But every time, and when you watch him, he's one of those guys. You say to people, if you go to the game, just don't watch the ball. We all have a habit of watching the ball. Watch him for just a couple of sets, and you just walk away with a new appreciation.
Yeah, the other thing about these 3 guys that we're talking about now, they want the ball, and they're playing in a position where, you can sit back and just pick your times. But these guys actually changed the way that you got the football as a fullback.
Righto, boys, because we're going to get through all the backs here. A 2-part question. Firstly, to you, Block. Out of those 3 players, who do you pick in for your side, Tedesco, Slater or Jimmy Jack?
Mate, I've got to go Billy Slater because of the amount of times, the amount of tries that he scored firstly, and the amount of times that he stopped tries, but he actually changed the game for the passing wise.
Did you see that? I heard Gary Jack just kick the telephone.
No, I love Gary Jack. He was a great player, but this guy,
he's looking for coins underneath.
This guy was great at everything.
Okay, Kenty.
Okay,
just quick one. Tedesco, has he gone past Slater, and will he go past Slater?
I don't think he has now. No, potentially yes.
Yep.
He's a bigger version of Billy. He doesn't have the natural ball playing that Billy had. But I did the other day. He threw this pass. They all throw the quick tap. It's almost a tap off.
He's getting that.
But he not only did that, but when he caught it, it was the quick pass. But he threw it a bit over, which I thought, wow, he started to get a bit of vision. He threw it over the opposition winger who was coming in and set up.
You know the other thing he's doing now, Matty. You know about this sort of stuff. When blokes throw a good ball, they admire their work, don't they? No, they do. You look up the screen and go, that wasn't a bad ball, But he's kept himself alive back on the inside and scored a number of times too, rather than admiring what he's done. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, that felt good. I hope it looked good. Look at the screen. Actually, it did look good. How are you going to do wingers?
Wingers, look, Matty, it's a funny one because wingers came in a lot of shapes and sizes. So the typical winger is I went with Kerry Boosted. So Kerry was obviously it's a bit like Billy started out in the halves up in far north Queensland, but went to the wing to play rep football, and then had that magical year in, I think it was 78, where he just went through from a country football all the way to play for the Kangaroos, and then it just launched his career. But the typical winger stayed out on the edge, basically was the finishing touch on the end of the back line. That was the wingers play. Speed, good footwork, the whole business. There was a lot of wingers who were similar. There was another type of winger, a bit bigger, not quite as nippy on the feet. Slippy Morris was much like Kerry Boosted.
Yep.
But then you had like the Chris Anderson, Rob Wishart type wingers, and then you had the bigger wingers.
Yep.
And that's the Eric Growth.
But you're right. But they never ventured out of their 10-metre corridor.
That was where they stayed.
They stayed, and they might have zigzagged back on the inside like that great try Grove scored at the SCG.
Yeah.
But he received the ball in the 10-metre corridor.
I'll tell you a story. Can I tell you a story about a big winger? And Blocker knows this story. I'll tell you a story about a big winger who, back in the late 70s, he ended up moving in, like most big wingers do, move in towards forward. But in 1979, Great Britain toured Australia. And while they were over here in Australia, they went and played Northern Division. And so they're playing Northern Division in this country game. And they're kicking it down the field. And Noel Cleal is getting the ball at wing and just coming back and barreling. He's a young winger at the time in country football. He's coming back and just barreling these palms over. Dave Topless was I think he was Dave Topless, the Great Britain 5'8". He sat there and he said, for sake, kick it to the other corner. Yeah. So next time they got the ball, they just roofed the ball down the other corner, well away from Crusher. Les Cleal's the other winger.
Yes.
He goes, oh, there's two of them.
Oh, that's good.
But the big wingers were an asset, but they still played on the wing, and the game was always played that way. I have a preference for. I like the little nippy wingers. Slippy Morris is a great little winger.
Yeah, he was.
Played a lot of halfback too.
Yeah, he did.
He began as a halfback, but he just didn't have the ball playing ability there. So they put him on the wing because he had so much speed. But then from there, Matty, obviously the game changer for me, and we look at the modern game today, was Wendell Sailor.
Yeah.
So Wendell came to the Bronx and he had this impregnable self-belief.
Yep.
But beyond that, Matty, he was a big winger. So, like I said, there were big wingers before. Terry Fay was the Redfern Express. Eric Growth, I remember reading a story in Rugby League Week in the 80s. Eric Growth is the new brand of big winger in rugby league. He's 88 kilos. Yeah, I mean, which wasn't a big man at the time, by modern standards. But Wendell came in, and Wendell walked in sort of high 90s. But beyond that, Wendell began to play like a forward.
Yes.
So Wendell would come in and do the hit-up. Eric Growth, back in the day, remember when Jack Gibson came up with the play where the winger would throw the ball in from the sideline.
And then double round.
The hooker would take the tap and the winger would double around and the winger would have to hit it up. That was Jack's idea. Eric Growth hated it.
we had a bloke who came from rugby union, Barry Lee. It was a great bloke, Barry. And they did winger in. He used to go, no.
Well, we used to do that in the middle of the ruck going, mate, winger in, is the tap, woohoo, until Eric Growth took over.
Yeah, but I tell you, but Wendell was the one that really made forwards think, mate, he wasn't coming at them as a winger. He was coming to them same size as the forwards, but more powerful and faster. And most importantly, he had that mentality. He loved that contest. So he loved getting in there. Like I said, Eric was, mate, I'd prefer not to. But Wendell was the guy that just said, give me the ball.
And I'll tell you the other thing about Wendell too was that most wingers were sort of shy retiring types. Yeah. If they got a mouth, blokes would just get back on your wing.
Yeah.
Wendell had that much chirp. Yeah. He would just chirp. He had that confidence.
And good at it.
And swagger, and he was good at it.
So he was probably the first winger really in the modern game to do 20 hit-ups.
Yeah.
And you look at, you have a look at now, we'll talk about it a bit later on about centres. Those sort of wingers are more important now than centres.
I'm with you.
The way the wingers worked back then is they were just add-ons. Wendell was.
They went and got the beer at the pub after the
exactly. But Wendell was like, we have the modern game now where you have your back five, so you got your fullback and your wingers and your centres. That all came out of Wendell. Wayne Bennett recognised that Wendell, you know what? Well, I've got a bloke here who's basically an extra forward, so I'm going to use him extra forward. Most of all, he loves being used as an extra forward. And Wendell had that confidence. You talk to the Broncos back in the day when Wendell was there, and his enthusiasm and his ability to just get everybody together and get them going was really infectious. And what he would do, for example, they'd be in the gym, the Bronx, and the Bronx were very competitive, like all the great sides are, competitive against opposition.
Each other?
But within the team.
Yeah.
But they celebrated, most importantly, they celebrated their victories.
Yep.
So they'd be in the gym, and Wendell suddenly would announce, that say Alan Can is going for the bench press record. So he'd turn the music up, and he'd get around. Everyone start clapping, and everyone would start, "Come on, mate, come on!" And they try and get him going a bit.
Yeah.
And that enthusiasm and just went through it went through everybody.
We played him in Newcastle one night. There was probably 30,000 there, and Wendell ran on the field. He said, "Oh, full house! They're all here to see the Dell."
Really?
Yeah.
Mate, what would Duke say?
Oh, mate, he used to play Dukes off.
But that was part of it, because he used to get into Dukes, and Dukes would just go berserk.
They're here to watch me today. Yeah.
Who's the best now, Kenty?
The best now, I think. That's a tough one, Matty. Look, you got a few, and it depends what you like. I think that the typical best winger now, I look at someone like Brett Morris, because of the new corner post rule, that ability to just fly through this. So Brett Morris is not a small man either. He does the hit-ups. He does all the tough stuff.
But he can finish.
But he can finish. He's got defensively, he's very sound, so he reads well. A lot of wingers, they never used to be able to read off the wing defensively. But Brett Morris he's the one that sort of first started going, I think, really going through the air for the crossfield kicks. I know a few teams were doing it. Broncos, I think, began it.
Yep.
But you look at the way he's able to sort of contort his body, catch the ball, turn himself around and bend and get the ball in.
You know the other thing about him is when you're playing, you get good at different things as year in and year out. So, but you lose one thing that you were good at, but you become good at another thing.
Yeah.
Brett Morris' longevity has gotten better. I would say that he's probably playing better than he ever has.
I will say, I do think we've seen the next evolution's already begun with blokes like Rudra and now Maika Sivo, who are just monsters.
They are.
Who are just blocks of granite, who just run at even pace, and they terrify opponents when they come in with the ball.
I love the way Jordan Rapana plays as well.
Yeah.
There's another one.
There's energy.
A bloke who actually can just sit, go, looking a bit vulnerable through the middle, and just go, make a decision. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to actually ball play a little bit.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
It's a fascinating position, isn't it? The whole evolution, because they used to be, they're like drummers in a rock band. Yeah, wingers used to hang around footballers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or a bass guitarist.
That's right.
But that's what wingers were. And as you said, back in the day when a winger would say something, it'd be like, mate,
it would.
Get back to your wing.
What?
Please.
Please. Oh, they pipe up in a meeting and they go...